Did you know that scientists give you research bonuses? I'll tell you all about this and more in today's guide. We'll go a little bit more in depth, but let's start off by right-clicking the research tab, which immediately opens the experimental facilities, or pressing W and going over here. I hope Paradox adds a shortcut at some point, because that is a little bit clunky, but at least you can right-click it. This is also the only way that you can see how many facilities you have right now, and there's no way to see how many facilities someone else has, so I feel like that's also an oversight from Paradox. Either way, you can also just filter for facilities, or you can just count how many you have. If we finished any research projects, we can also see them here in the history tab and our scientists. Now we can also just filter and sort for scientists here. If we were interested in, for example, in Brilliant Theorist, we could either search for them, or if I'm interested in Heisenberg, I can also just search for him here. Most scientists only have one skill, but if we were to research all, Heisenberg gets all of the progress, and he technically has multiple skill levels, but this is only possible via cheats. Hovering over scientists will tell us their current skill level, as well as any traits that they might have. The best trait for your scientist is definitely Genius, but another good trait is the Brilliant Theorist for the 5% special project speed and 2% breakthrough bonus. And then next on the list are any of the expert traits for more project speed. And then after that we have specialists, which are just, you know, worse than experts, but still pretty good. The last trait that I want to highlight is the fast learner trait, since that one can be very useful for leveling a scientist very quickly and then giving you all the research bonuses and all that. When we try to recruit new scientists, we sadly only get one per category, but their PP cost at least caps at 100, so you couldn't technically search for traits that you're interested in relatively easily. The max level of your scientist caps at level 5, which is Mastermind. And as you can see, if a scientist is assigned to a facility, every level that they have will give 0.05 daily breakthrough progress, which is all of this. So this bar will slowly fill, and they will provide a 2% research bonus for every level that they have. So every single one of those texts that's green will get a 2% research bonus, because we have actually a 4% because it's level 2, a 4% research bonus from our currently assigned scientists. Now there are diminishing returns associated to this, so every scientist that you add on top will just get a 50% malus. So the next one would get a 75% malus, the next one would get a 87.5%, and so on. We will still get a research bonus. As you can see, we don't get 4% right now, we get 6% because our second scientist only gets 50% efficiency. Most nations will not have any of those facilities when you open this tab up. The UK, the US and Germany will have a couple, but if you don't have any, that's not a big deal. We'll get to that. If we click on any of these tabs, we can actually open up all of those special projects that we can research. And if we then click on any of those special projects, we can then see some details of what this one will actually unlock. If you don't have the prerequisite tag, then you don't know what this will unlock. I mean, technically, you can just look it up. There we go. I just pressed research all, and now we know that this one will unlock the nuclear reactor. And once we have that one, we can also unlock all of these other ones, since we do need the Uranmaschine for the commercial nuclear reactor and the nuclear engines. To the right of this little tab, we have the progress bar that I already mentioned, where we can see our current daily progress, and scientists as well as research will slowly fill this up. And to the right of this bar, we also see our current breakthrough mana. Building those facilities can be done in the construction tab, and only one per state can be built, and they can only be built in regions that have sufficient supply. For example, we cannot build over here, but we could build over here. The naval engineering facility also has a special restriction that it can only be built in coastal tiles. As you can see, red is where the supply is not good enough, green is where we can build, and blue is where we have already built. If you want to, for example, if for some reason I wanted to demolish the one in Brandenburg, I could simply just do this here, and then once that one has been demolished, I can build another facility in Brandenburg. Since I've already mentioned supply, if a facility does not have enough supply, they will actually suffer research loss. So it is fairly important to keep your facilities at full supply if you want to keep them at max efficiency. On its own, these facilities will not do anything. As you can see, like, the one in Württemberg does not do anything, but as soon as we assign a scientist, the scientist will start generating breakthrough progress, as well as providing us with research bonuses. Instead of generating breakthrough mana, we can also just use a special project. For example, if I want to build the flame tank, I can start researching that one with Emil Becker in Franken, and that one will cost us 1 land warfare breakthrough mana, and because of his level, he will actually increase the research speed a little bit here. But as you can see, some texts do need multiple breakthrough mana. For example, the land cruiser would require 3 breakthrough mana, so it can be a decent strategy to bank up on breakthrough mana if you're not super interested in any of the other tech. Another way that you can get breakthrough mana is by researching tech. One thing you should keep in mind is the colors here. Naval is blue, air is red, land is green, and physics is yellow. This means if we head over to the research tab, all of those small little notches over here will tell us what this tech will give us daily breakthrough progress towards. Now we can also hover over it and see that it does land warfare, but the UI will tell us from the get-go, okay, this one has a green notch, it will give us land breakthrough progress. And since this is daily, technically there is benefit to researching something way ahead of time just to get the most out of your daily breakthrough progress if you can't afford the additional IC for the facilities and you really need something. Usually researching takes a little while. I just added special projects research instant and some breakthrough points so we can see it properly. And if I were to start this now, usually the game would go through several iterations, but now we unlock the Flampanzer and we can immediately start building this one. Sadly, there's no proper way yet to see which techs unlock certain special projects. For example, the early cruiser hull will unlock the torpedo cruiser, but we don't see that unless we hover over it or we know it, which I do think is a little bit of a bummer. But once we unlock the early cruiser, we can start work on the torpedo cruiser. Paradox also added a couple of those techs with a weird border. This means that these techs will only unlock if you have the prerequisite special project. For example, with this one, we have the flame tank, so we can technically start researching the advanced flamethrower. And this will usually only affect the tech that is related to the special projects. Now, there are also a couple that this does not apply to for some reason, especially because this one is artillery tech under the anti-air branch, which is quite strange, but it is Paradox for you. If you take a look at the most important special projects to research, in my opinion, I don't know why, but for some reason I forgot to list radar. Radar is obviously also very important, and hey, if you've watched this video thus far, why don't you subscribe? You really seem to have enjoyed it. The proximity fuse, which is also a naval tech, is very important, because if we unlock that one, we can start researching the additional 20% soft attack for artillery and 10% soft attack for support artillery. If you do use artillery, then this is going to be very nice, just because it's another artillery buff. And of course, as always, flame tanks, you should just research them anyway. Another cool thing to research would be the land cruiser. If you want to use some offensive infantry, you can turn this into a very chunky division. It is the cruiser submarine, because if we get that one, we can unlock the fleet submarine, and that one is just a straight up upgrade over the 1940 submarine, just because of the additional range and more HP. The fleet submarine is slightly more expensive than the generic submarine hull, but the range speaks for itself. Now, if you don't need the additional range, then this is perfectly fine. You know, you don't really need the fleet submarine, but if you let's say you're playing Germany and for some reason you want to raid over here in the Pacific, then the fleet submarine is gonna be very nice. Another tech that I find very important, obviously if you're interested in nukes, you should research nukes. I will make another video where I go a little bit more in depth about all of the techs, but these are the ones that I feel like you should look out for. But the other techs, I'm gonna say it nice, we will have to talk about in the other video, because it does not look good for the other techs, if I'm being honest. Some of these special projects also need resources, and if you don't have the resources, then you will also suffer from a research speed penalty. If, for some reason, you want to unassign certain scientists, for example, let's say I have something super important that I just unlocked, but I need von Braun for something else, then I can unassign von Braun by just selecting him here, and then selecting him again, and after a while he will start leaving this facility, and then we can assign another guy to this one. This technically can come in handy if you really care about your special projects, but realistically, it doesn't really matter. If you're researching something and your facility is captured while you're researching something in this facility, the enemy will get a little bit of progress towards the research, but realistically, who gives a shit? Oh, and if you enjoyed my grandson's yapping, why don't you watch this video where he ranked every single support company and he tells you why maintenance is the absolute worst one of them.